Welcome to the Legally Speaking podcast.
You are now listening to season 6 of the show.
I'm your host, Rob Hanna. This week, I'm delighted to be joined by Gemma Adams. Gemma is a chartered legal executive advocate and accredited police station representative at Tucker's Solicitors. She has over 10 years worth of experience in criminal law and as a criminal paralegal. Gemma is also the founder and director and secretary of Women in Law Kent. Previously, Gemma worked as a legal secretary at Waitman, Struthers Solicitors and Fairweathers LLP. So a very, very warm welcome, Gemma.
Thank you very much. What a lovely introduction.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And before we dive into all your amazing projects and experiences to date, we do have a customary icebreaker question here on the Legally Speaking podcast, which is, on the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very real, what would you rate the hit TV series Suits in terms of its reality?
I'm afraid I have never seen Suits. So I have no idea. I tend to stick to a more gritty drama, so I'm more of a Peaky Blinders kind of girl rather than a Suits, I'm afraid. So, and plus, it's an American one, isn't it?
Well, there is an American, and yes, you're absolutely right, it is. And so with that, we're going to give it a 0, but I also want to put it on the record. I'm a big Peaky Blinders fan as well. So let's go to the beginning, Gemma. Would you mind telling our listeners a bit about your background and career journey?
Yeah, so I won't go back too far, but my sort of legal journey really started as I left school. I mean, I had a couple of years after school working in administration and customer service and sort of building my secretarial skills because I had no idea what I wanted to do after I left school. And then I managed to get a job in a law firm over in Canterbury, which used to be called Harman and Harman, then moved over to Fairweathers with the lovely Nick Fairweather, who is now the president of the Kent Law Society. So I started off there. I found that firm very, very inspirational, and my interest started from there, really. I moved around several law firms as a legal secretary for a little while until I had a break from maternity in 2009. And when I returned to work, got a job with the firm that I'm with now. We were then called Kent Defence. We're now part of Tucker's Solicitors. Started there as a secretary and was bitten by the criminal law bug. So I'd worked in various areas of law, very interesting, but criminal is for me. So I decided almost immediately after working there that this is something that I wanted to pursue. So enrolled in university, very grateful to my firm who are really supportive. Enrolled in university, studied part-time, essentially not the usual university experience. I attended classes under the cover of darkness. So our classes were in the evening, like 7 till 9, I think they were. So twice a week under the cover of darkness studying. That took 6 years and then graduated in 2017 and then sort of was a bit of a crossroads there because you have a few options after law school. LPC, there was no SQE back then. LPC, I didn't quite know what I wanted to do, and obviously it's very expensive, but I ended up taking the CILEx route and qualified as a chartered legal executive, which is essentially the same as a solicitor. A lot of people don't actually know the difference. There isn't a difference. It's just the way that you study. It's more a specialist route rather than a generic LPC, cover all the modules type course. So while studying with CILEx, again, part-time, all flexible. I've got a daughter at home, so I needed it to be a bit flexible. Plus, I'm working full time. I undertook the police station accreditation too. So it's all come very, very nicely to the beginning of this year where I've qualified, I've done all my courses, and at the beginning of this year I had to do my advocacy rights as well. So now we're all done. But yeah, it's been a bit of a long slog, but really worth it. I'm really pleased I did it the way I did it. Very stressful, as I'm sure you can imagine at times, but just really pleased to. I've got one more tiny hurdle to jump, which is the duty solicitor qualification, but I'm just very pleased to be towards the end of it now rather than right at the beginning.
Yeah, and I just love that. And congratulations on everything you've done. You know, it's such a progressive story. You know, there's tenacity in there's motivation. You say it's stressful. You know, you've kept going, 6 years studying at nighttime. You know, there's a lot of commitment there. And so, good for you and truly well deserved. And let's go back to university then, because you did study at the University of Kent. You did law. Which module did you most enjoy studying whilst you are under darkness?
I think the law of evidence was my favourite module. We had a great tutor, Darren Weir, who works at the University of Kent and who sort of brought the whole module to life, really. Brings in his wig and gown for people to try on for legal arguments in class. I remember that quite vividly. And that's obviously going to be one of my turning points. One of my, I'm at uni, I know I like criminal law, and then the module it came to life. It was brilliant.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you mentioned, obviously, and I mentioned in the intro as well, that you previously worked as a legal secretary, I believe at the likes of 𝐬𝐡𝐻, Struthers, and you mentioned Fairweathers as well. How did being a legal secretary differ between each of the firms, if at all?
I mean, generally it was the same kind of role, so we're doing the same things day in, day out. My work at Struthers was very interesting. I worked for a lawyer who dealt with litigation and disputes in relation to works of art, so that was quite a niche area of law. So that was really interesting, actually, because I'm quite nosy. I think I quite like finding out what's going on with people. I really like working with people and talking to people and finding out what's going on. So, I mean, this is probably why I've ended up in criminal law, right? No, I really found that very interesting. But to be honest, if you can be a legal secretary somewhere, you can be a legal secretary anywhere. The skills that you pick up are so transferable. Organisation, talking to people, dealing with queries. It's all part and parcel of the work of a lawyer. So it's an excellent stepping stone.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say. Because we haven't had many people on who have sort of had that experience and then obviously gone on to qualify. So I love it. So what would be like a typical day, or what are the responsibilities you have? Because like you say, it's given you such a great grounding to go on to where you have today.
Yeah, so a typical day for me is wake up not knowing where you are or what's going to happen that day. Obviously, things in criminal law, it's quite fast paced. Things happen very quickly. So it's hard to plan. But I mean, there's a degree of planning that goes on, but it's hard to sort of plan in terms of your logistics where you are going to be that day. So my typical day would be, if a client has been arrested, would go to the police station to represent them. I'm now on my feet in court, very, very new in court. So, still quite a scary environment, but really enjoying it. So, court hearings too. So just in the magistrates' court. So first hearings, adjournments, bail applications, sentence hearings, that sort of thing. They're all for relatively straightforward offences in the magistrates' court, but at the police station I'll deal with any type of offence. So it could be anything from shoplifting, a very minor shoplifting offence, all the way up to murder, of course. And I actually dealt with my first murder at the beginning of this year, so I feel like that's a good one to be ticked off, because if you can do a murder in the police station, you can do anything.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I tip my hat off to you because you are doing such tremendous work. But I want to talk a little bit more about the route into getting there, because you mentioned, and obviously you studied at the CILEx and law school. Can you tell us more about CILEx and that route specifically?
Yeah, it's recently gone over a bit of a makeover. So I studied underneath what they call the legacy route. So this is the original route. So I had a law degree. So I jumped in sort of halfway through the legacy route and did the diploma, which essentially means that you have to do 3 modules, 1 either being client care or legal research, and 2 sort of subject-based practice modules. So I chose family and criminal law. But if you're starting from scratch with CILEx, if you've got no legal experience or qualifications whatsoever, you don't actually have to have a degree at all. You can work your way up through training with CILEx. But they've just had a makeover. So they've now got a new route called the CILEx CPQ, which incorporates advocacy rights into it too. And it's a more streamlined way of studying. They've made it a lot simpler. And it's a lot cheaper than the LPC as well. So if you know which area of law you want to work in, CILEx will essentially guide you through and make you the specialist lawyer that you want to become.
Yeah, no, and thank you for sharing that, because I think it's fascinating, and we need to give more exposure to these different routes. Because law, we're trying to make it more accessible, more affordable to so many people across the globe, and particularly here in the UK and England and Wales. So I'm really pleased that you managed to sort of highlight that so well. And you just, again, drilling down a bit more, because before this role, obviously, you were the sort of chartered legal executive. So I'm just keen to know about skills that you did learn specifically, and how did those skills translate into becoming an advocate as well?
I don't think anything can really prepare you for advocacy. I mean, because I did uni the part-time way, I didn't really participate in any societies or any mooting or anything like that. I think advocacy, you can train yourself for it at university. If you're a full-time student and you're there during the day, then, you have to be taking part in moots and competitions just to prepare yourself for public speaking. I done none of that. So I felt like when I was on my feet in court the first time, although I was quite nervous, I've done things like this before. So work on social media. Obviously my work with women in law has given me the confidence to speak in public too. And I do quite like jumping in at the deep end. So I do like to be challenged. So I although I had zero experience in speaking, officially, no competitions, no training or anything like that. Then I think you just need to do as much as you can to prepare yourself for it. I mean, obviously, if you're training with the bar school, they have all the aspects that you need for advocacy there. They'll train you up for it. There's examinations on it, but the way that I've done things, no exams for me. But yeah, I quite enjoy a challenge. I'm always, once I've ticked something off, as I'm sure you can imagine from my journey, it's been quite long. So once I've, jumped one hurdle, I'm always looking to the next. So even though I'm towards the end of my journey now, I'm thinking, what can I do next? So yeah, I just take it as a challenge, and I just really enjoy it.
Yeah, no, and good for you. And I love it because you're so progressive, and I love that mindset of what next. So congratulations. And you also do other things. So, in your recent article, Inspiring the Next Generation of Criminal Defense Lawyers, you state, the most rewarding part of my job is ensuring justice is delivered. So from your view, Gemma, how is justice delivered? And is this reliant on lawyers providing clients with knowledge?
Well, absolutely, yes. I mean, that's quite a heavy question. I don't even know where to begin with my answer. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, and as I'm sure, Rob, you've seen on my Instagram page, I'm quite keen to tell as many people as possible what their rights are, what the police powers are, the definition of criminal offences, because a lot of people just have no idea. If you're not working in this sort of environment, if you know nothing about the criminal justice system, you're ill-equipped to deal with it. So if the police wanted to stop and search you in the street, majority of people wouldn't know what the police can and can't do, what sort, the tick list of things that the police have to do to make it a legal stop and search. So first and foremost is knowledge. Secondly is making sure that everybody has access to legal advice. In the police station, everybody has the rights to free and independent legal advice. So no matter how much money you've got in the bank or, your status, you're entitled to free independent legal advice. Not so much at court. I could do a whole podcast on legal aid and legal aid rates and legal aid cuts. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go into that today. But yeah, the legal aid rates are so low and the legal aid threshold for applicants is also very low. So yeah, justice is only done when everybody has access to legal advice, and that unfortunately is not the case at the moment. But a good starting point, like I said, is getting the word out there, spreading the word, so everybody knows at least that if they are questioned by the police, whether it be under arrest or they're asked to attend the police station as a volunteer, so just to pop in as the police aide for a quick chat, then you are entitled to legal advice, and it's completely free. So why wouldn't you have it? It's free legal advice. It's somebody who's on your side, giving you the advice, helping you through what can be a very stressful time. Yeah,
and it's a really great point. So I remember once somebody sort of kidding, people like, well, do I need it? And then I think one of the judges once said to somebody, who was unsure about legal advice, would you go to a heart doctor and say you're going to perform the surgery by yourself on your heart? You're not, right? And that's the kind of reality when it comes to that. So you're absolutely true. Take it. It's there. They're there to help, support, protect, and make sure you understand your right as a citizen, particularly here in the UK. So thank you for highlighting that.
Time for a quick break from the show. You wouldn't leave a potential client waiting in your office for 3 days. But what about when it comes to returning potential clients' phone calls, emails, or even web inquiries? If you're not responding rapidly to those who inquire about your firm's services, you could be losing money, losing clients, and affecting your law firm's reputation. Thankfully, there's a resource from our sponsor, Clio, that can help you, called How to Grow Your Firm with Legal Client Intake. It's a free guide that will show you exactly how and why you should be automating your client intake process. Download your free copy at clio.com/UK/free intake guide. That's Clio, CLIO.com/UK/free intake guide. Now back to the show.
It's amazing how, you've picked up all these things and just built your skill set over time. So, and you're with that, you have over 10 years of criminal law experience, as a criminal paralegal, dealing with various offences from the police station, particularly magistrates court and Crown Court. So 2 questions, firstly, what's the difference between magistrates and Crown Court? And, have there been any memorable cases you would like to share with us if you can?
So every single case starts in the magistrates court. The magistrates court is the lower of the 2 that deals with more simple offences. Sometimes they can be complex in nature, but they are essentially offences that carry a lower sentence. So if the magistrates deem it appropriate to send it to the Crown Court, if it's a serious matter, or sometimes you can choose to go to the Crown Court depending on what type of offence it is and what kind of sentence you might be looking at. Then your case will end up in the Crown Court. So the Crown Court is clearly the more serious of the 2, which deal with more serious offences, usually carrying prison sentences. So the Magistrates Court have a sentencing power at the moment to sentence people to 12 months. It's just been increased from 6 to 12. And the Crown Court have unlimited power, so obviously giving out life sentences as the biggest one I can think of. Memorable cases. Well, this is a tough one because we're not really allowed to talk about cases. We've had some very interesting cases. And what I will say is that working in criminal law, you develop a very inappropriate, dark sense of humour, where some things to, the ordinary Joe may be deeply offensive, but, you have to have a giggle about it. Otherwise, we'll be very stressed and crying in the office because we deal with very difficult cases. Sometimes very upsetting, they can involve children, they can be serious sexual offences, things that have happened that are extremely traumatic. So I think in order to work in criminal law, you have to have quite a thick skin, be very resilient, but to be able to laugh at things that are disgusting.
Yeah, no, and it's at the end of the day, we're all humans, aren't we? So, I think it's important that, it is a heavy job and responsibility. And, you have to be understanding of that. But at the same time, being able to try and enjoy and have a bit of fun with what you do is also important. And I know you don't want to talk too much about it today, but just want to bring it back a little bit because you are incredibly passionate about criminal law. And in your recent article with lawcareers.net, you detail whether criminal aid lawyers are dying out. So can you explain more detail what your perspective on this is?
Yes, there's extensive research that's been undertaken by the Law Society. Essentially, last year, the average age of a duty solicitor, so somebody working in criminal law who can deal with duty cases at the police station and the court, is 49. That is a really high age. I think the Law Society describe it as the retirement time bomb. So there's 2 prongs to this. So the first is that there's a very low level of students who have an interest in criminal law. There's no one coming into the profession. So the profession is getting older and older. The retirement time bomb, if we think about what's going to be, where are we going to be in 20 years' time? A lot of these people are going to be retired. And if we have nobody new coming into the profession, we will essentially die out. If you look at Cornwall, for example, 74% of their lawyers who work in criminal law are over 50 already. So I'm quite keen to promote criminal law for students. Yes, it doesn't pay well. If I wanted lots of money, I wouldn't be a criminal lawyer. I would end up in commercial. But it's something that you have to be passionate about, that you enjoy doing. So that's why I do it. I love doing it. I really, really enjoy it. I like helping people. It could be the worst day of their lives if they've been arrested for something, for something serious. Even if it's for something which I would deem trivial, it could be, mortifying for them. They're under a lot of stress. They need some assistance, and that's what we're there for. Unfortunately, the job does come with long hours. So I do my office hours. I go to court during the day. I go to the police station during the day, but I'm also on call. So my office, offices do it differently, but my office have a rota where I'm on call probably 1 out of every 5 to 7 days, and sometimes all weekend. So there are sacrifices that need to be made because sometimes you can't plan things. And anyone who works in criminal law will know that plans with friends often get disrupted. Your family members have to be, adaptable, let's say. Plans will get disrupted. You work long hours. It's very, very stressful. But it's so rewarding when you've had a case where somebody that they've been falsely accused, and you've managed to have their case dropped by speaking to the police or the prosecution. Or when you know that you've got your client a really good result, even if they've pleaded guilty, they've done something wrong and they've pleaded guilty, and you've managed to get them a good result, which is worthy of, what they've done, a recognisable punishment, essentially. It's so rewarding. I'm just really keen to get the word out there to students. It is a viable career path. It has to be something you enjoy. Doing a job like this without the enjoyment will be very, very difficult. But this retirement time bomb, it's only going to be a matter of time before people are at the police station. There's nobody to come out and see them. There's nobody to give them that legal advice. They may end up getting charged and going to court. There'll be nobody to come to court with them. Your solicitor might be over 100 miles away, particularly if you're living somewhere so rural, down in Cornwall. Numbers down there are quite low anyway. But yeah, it'd be nice as well, I think, for younger clients to have somebody to relate to. Essentially, if your solicitor's turning up and he's 65, 70 years old, if you're 18, you're not going to relate to that person. So it's important to have a diverse profession in terms of age, race, disability, so that you have those people to relate to. And unfortunately, where the numbers are so low, it's hard to be diverse.
Yeah. Well, I think, you're doing something about it, because you obviously are trying to appeal to a younger audience and raise visibility. And obviously one of the best ways to do that is obviously to turn to digital and to turn to social media. And as you mentioned, you are the founder and director and secretary of Women in Law Kent. What is your organisation about, and what do you hope for members to gain from joining your organisation?
So Women in Law Kent is a group of women in law who live in Kent and work in Kent. Our aim is to empower, support and connect women who work in Kent. We're not just open to women, we're open to everybody who shares the same belief that, essentially women need a helping hand, we need to support each other, and obviously we do that through networking and training. So I founded the group back in 2020. It was literally, I think, 1 or 2 weeks before we went into the first national lockdown, so it was unfortunate timing. But we had a big launch event where lots of lawyers came along. So we had students, solicitors, barristers of all ages come together and just meet each other. And it was more of a networking opportunity, really, just to launch it and sort of see where it goes. We're now 2 and a bit years into it, and we have we're now a limited company. We're a non-profit organisation. We don't make any money from it. It's essentially a hobby of ours that we like doing to benefit ourselves and others. And our online and offline community is rapidly growing. We've got a really lovely committee of women who organise events, and we're sponsored by local law firms. It's just a really positive environment for people to get to know each other and share stories, and give each other the confidence to, essentially be the best we can be in our careers. And compete with you men.
Absolutely. And I love it. And I love that you're doing so much with that, and you're collaborating. And, we talk about the importance of community in everything. And that's something we're passionate about. The Legally Speaking podcast is trying to build this community and trying to humanize the legal profession and give people as much thought leadership and inspiration that, change is happening. So with that, with, Women in Law Kent, what future events do you have planned, or what are you thinking about if you haven't got any planned just yet?
Sorry, Rob, I lost you there.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yeah.
Okay, cool. Do you want to just maybe go to audio, stick to audio, and then I'll just re-ask the question for you?
Yeah.
So talking of Women in Law Kent, what future events do you have, if any, would you like people to know about?
So we have a few events coming up this year. Well, I'll keep some of them secret for now because there are announcements to be made. But our next event is we are going to be part of the Pride Parade in Canterbury, which is the city in the middle of Kent. So we've got some spaces available to be in the actual parade. So we're going to be all glittered up, handing out leaflets and goodie bags to our members. And we're going to be encouraging people to meet us at the after party. So we're going to have a big parade through the town, and then we're going to be meeting up in a place called Danger Gardens afterwards. It's a gardens essentially at the other end of town where there's going to be a massive celebration. So we're really, really happy to be part of this. It really mirrors our values within Women in Law Kent, which is inclusivity, support of others. So we're absolutely buzzing to be a part of that.
Yeah, and I'm excited for it. So this has been a fascinating conversation, Gemma. I've loved learning more about your story and journey and where you've been and what you've been up to and what you're currently doing and where you plan to go. So finally, what advice would you give to those in the legal profession or wanting to go down the CILEx route, qualify as a chartered legal executive advocate, or generally interested in criminal law?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to speak to as many lawyers or people who work in the system, the justice system, or whatever area of law it is you want to work in. Try and speak to as many people as you can to find out what it's actually like to work in law. Try to attend as many networking events as you can, make some, valuable network connections online. Don't just connect with a load of people on LinkedIn and expect things to come to you. You have to build relationships and get involved. If you're at uni, for example, get involved in societies and keep in contact with people. I just think the more people you speak to, the more knowledgeable you will become. I've used that to my advantage. Like I said, I went to university under the cover of darkness, so I've used social media to my advantage, making connections online, which has led to some really amazing opportunities. I just think get your name out there, make some valuable connections, find out as much as you can about the areas of law you're interested in. Of course, work experience and the usual advice, but making those valuable connections will, put you a step ahead of the others, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. And if our listeners want to learn more about the CILEx route or Women in Law Kent, what would be the best way for them to contact you? Feel free to shout out on these social media or web links, and we'll also share them with this episode for you too.
Lovely, thank you. Yeah, so you can find me on pretty much all platforms. I'm Gemma Legal Exec. And we also find Women in Law Kent on all of the social media platforms, although you'll have to excuse my ignorance on TikTok. I'm trying my very best. But yeah, you can find us anywhere. And if anyone's got any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to help anybody.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gemma. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show. But from all of us on the Legally Speaking podcast, wishing you lots of continued success with your career and future pursuits. But for now, over and out.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you like the content here, why not check out our world-leading content and collaboration hub, the Legally Speaking Club, over on Discord. Go to our website, www.legallyspeakingpodcast.com, for the link to join our community there. Over and out.